Hey, welcome to Everyday Jesus. My name is Derek. Thank you for joining me today. So last week, our daughter, she's 8 years old, she lost another pet. During the beginning of the pandemic, when everything was getting ready to lock down, we ended up buying her a parakeet. When I was a kid, I had parakeets, and we thought, oh, it'd be a great companion for her for the lockdown. And she just loved that bird. She loved it and loved it, talked to it, took care of it. And yeah, it was just a really good friend for her. And then a few weeks ago, we had her out on the porch, and long story short, the bird ended up flying away, which was terrible. It was a horrible situation. And our poor daughter was just heartbroken. She wept and wept and wept. She loved that bird. Well, I think even that very same day, when she was out in our backyard, she caught a skink. And the little lizard tail comes off. There's this little funny lizard, and of course she asks, like, "Daddy, I know you'll probably say no, but can I keep it?" And well, of course I said, "Yes, you can keep it. They're fine, not gonna hurt anything." She just lost her bird. So she kept it. We made a little terrarium for it, and it was wonderful. And she loved that skink. She put food in there for it. She made this whole little world for it, named it, was saying goodnight to it every night. Well, a couple of days ago, again, the skink died. And we don't know what happened. We don't know how old the skink was. She thinks she was putting enough food in there. We don't know, but it died. And of course, she wept and wept and wept. She was so sad. She said, I told him yesterday that his birthday was on Friday, and he didn't even make it to his first birthday. It's just amazing how much the imagination can go and cause even so much heartbreak. But man, she loved that skink. Only had it a couple of weeks, and the poor thing died. And she, as she was processing through, she was saying, like, "Oh, I had the parakeet and it died. I had the skink and it died. Maybe I just shouldn't have pets. What's going on here?" And of course I told her, no, it's animals die, pets die. That's just part of life. It's just how it goes. So any pet that you have someday is going to die. But I told her, what I love about you is the way you wholeheartedly love these pets that you get. They weren't just, little things that were in the cage and you kind of barely pay attention. These were her friends. And I just told her, I love how deeply and fully you love these things, even that can seem kind of unimportant or trivial to an adult, right? But man, she just loved them. But what she's getting to see is that, and what I tried to explain to her is that when you love something, that means that there will be pain. Love means pain in many ways, right? Sometimes you see adults that have come to the conclusion in their lives that the way to avoid pain is just not to love anything, not to love anyone, not to care. And they're right. That is the way to avoid pain. But do we really want that? We see in the ministry and in the life of Jesus, as he's calling us to love, he never promises us that when you love someone, everything will be perfect and they'll never go away from you and there'll be no pain. He promises us pain. Later this same week, my wife and I were processing through some past relationships that have ended in heartbreak, and she was processing and just saying, I did everything right. We did everything that Jesus says to do, and how to love your neighbor, and how to reconcile differences when there's conflict, and she was right. From my perspective, she did everything that she could. But it didn't mean that things worked out well. They still had their end of it too, right? In any relationship, there's two sides. One person could do everything perfectly, and it could still not work out if the other person doesn't reciprocate, right? I mean, man, we see in Jesus' life, if we think that he did everything perfectly, and I do, he faced rejection after rejection after rejection. Even though he was the model of perfect, sacrificial, life-giving love, some of the people of his day just were not at a place to receive it. They couldn't handle it. They loved other things more than him, more than life. And so we kind of see this principle at work, kind of twofold, right? When we fully love as Jesus loved, he promises us that there will be pain. Even if you love your pets, love your dog, love your kids, love your family, when we fully, truly, deeply love, there will be pain, but it's worth it. But also, in relationships and in life, when we truly follow Jesus in the fullness of what he's calling us to, we have to expect that does not mean that things will turn out perfectly, or how we think that they should or will. And really, that's just a part of following Jesus. But we have to see too that the life that he gives us through loving with him and loving like him is fuller and truer and deeper and much longer lasting than the pain that sometimes comes from deeply loving. And I've just been encouraged by that the past few days that I've been mulling over that. It's easy, like I said earlier, it's easy as we become adults, right? We get hardened, we get jaded, we get burned one too many times, so we just don't give ourselves away to others. We don't give our love to others eventually because we think, man, I love this person and it turned out poorly, so I'm not going to do that again. But what we're choosing in that case is we're choosing death. We're choosing to reject the very thing that will give us life. And we think that in avoiding pain, our life will go better. But it's just not that way. That's not the way that God has created this world. It's not the way that Jesus calls us to live and the way he's created us to be. In a fallen world, true love, full love, will still often result in pain. So sometimes you have to make that choice, right? Do I want to avoid pain most, or do I want full, true, real life that is even mixed with pain? What do I want? And when you look at it that way, the choice is simple, right? Of course, I want life, but part of it takes having that recognition that life, full, true life, abundant life, still includes pain. If anyone tells you otherwise, they're lying to you. If anyone tells you that if you follow Jesus, everything will be great, it'll be smooth sailing, it'll fix all of your relationships, it'll make everything be good and happy and joyful all the time, it's not true according to Jesus. But what Jesus does promise us is that it will be good when we follow him. That he will be life-giving when we follow him. And we'll experience life to the full and abundantly. He says, I come so that you may have life and have it abundantly. Have it to the full. And all it takes is just a cursory glance at the life and teaching of Jesus to see that still life to the full includes pain. So be encouraged by that today in a weird way, right? Expect pain if you're following Jesus. But more than that, expect the life that comes from him that puts all of that pain into perspective. Yes, there will be loss. Yes, there will be pain. Yes, there will be heartbreak when relationships don't work out or when pets or people die. If you love deeply, those things will cause heartbreak. But that is still the road to life. at this time in history, on this side of the kingdom of God returning in full to squash all of that. That's part of it. So I encourage you today to look and see maybe what choices are you making right now? Do you find yourself avoiding deep connection because you want to avoid pain? I have to tell you that the pain of loneliness, the pain of disconnection, in the end, in the long term, is much greater than the pain of loss when you've loved fully and completely. Love like a child. My daughter went straight from one loss and dove headlong into another love. She didn't avoid another pet because it might cause pain. And I think that's why Jesus says at one point, he says, unless you enter as a child, unless you love as a child, you won't enter the kingdom of heaven. You won't experience this life. He says here in Matthew, he says, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. To experience love and the kingdom of heaven that Jesus is drawing us into, inviting us into, you have to give yourself to love fully like he did, like a child does. Not reserving any part of you, not reserving any part of your heart because you might get hurt, you might get burned. Not hesitating. When you see, no, surely not all, but when you see some children, when my daughter loves her pet, she's not reserving a small part. It's not a half-hearted love. She's entering in with her whole heart, fervently, in love with this thing, with this person. She does it with people too, not just pets. But as a child loves wholeheartedly, so we are called to love wholeheartedly our King, Jesus, but also those around us. That's where true life is, not in the avoidance of pain. I hope that's encouraging to you today. Think about that today. Look at where you might be holding yourself back to avoid pain. And I encourage you, embrace that potential pain for the life and the love that comes from fully loving. Maybe you've been hurt in the past. Maybe you've been burned. Maybe you've experienced heartbreak. That's real. And Jesus offers healing for that. Sometimes we need to heal before we can fully jump back in. But I encourage you to do it. You will never fully heal until you jump back in, fully love like a child. I bless you with that today. I'll see you next time.